So I grew up in New Orleans, Ninth Ward. New Orleans is a decent part of the city. It actually sits below sea level, so is protected by levees. My mom's birthday is August 27th. Happy birthday, Mom! And early, and so I had gone down to see her, and we watched the Saints game that night, which is you have to do if you're in New Orleans. Woke up the next morning and found out that this storm, which we had heard was heading for Florida, had actually turned. And so, thankfully, after some cajoling, I had to get my brother on the phone, go figure, my baby brother, but he finally convinced her that we had to go. And so I drove her out of New Orleans. I think it was the day before her birthday. I remember putting her in the car. She refused to pack anything because if you grow up in New Orleans, you don't run from a hurricane. That's what the tourists do. They get on a plane and they go, or they have a party in a hotel somewhere. And I just said, Mom, we should just go. And my brother lived in the northern part of the state, so the idea was to go there. So she didn't pack anything, and I packed a few things, grabbed just a few things, including the deed to the house. And I remember as we drove off, I went, "Bye, house," as a joke, trying to get her to laugh. And although the house was still there, arguably, after Katrina, you can't imagine, or you can see all the pictures of what a house looks like when it soaks underwater for 2 weeks or so. We lived in an area of the city that was traditionally and was actually built during segregation, so it was an African-American area. It was middle class, and not one of those houses was out of the floodplain, so every one of them, the levees broke in the lower Ninth Ward, and then the water just filled in, and so that, there were people who died in our neighborhood. Luckily, my mom was not there for that, but she lost everything she had. We lost our home, and once you've gone through any kind of disaster, you can't hear those stories ever again on the radio about a flood in some distant place the same way. When you say that something that used to happen every 20 years or 50 years is going to start happening every few years, you can't hear that and not remember the years it took to get my mom and the family back together. The convulsions of that city over who could rebuild and where they could rebuild, and the threat that the civic society, the society would be pulled apart by people's belief that they weren't going to get treated fairly. And in some ways, as horrible as that was, and Irene after it, you can't say it was fortunate, but what are you going to do when you're the 12th in a row and there's no more money left? There is no cavalry to come running because we don't have it anymore. That's the moral issue.